A video was recently leaked of an event hosted by a group called the People of Praise. Now, what is the People of Praise? Well, apparently they are a secretive Christian group or a cult to which Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett belongs to. And that's, of course, why this is now in the national spotlight. Now, this video that had come out basically shows how they feel about women and their place in the home. Take a look.
Suddenly we were having teachings on headship and the roles of men and women and all sorts of things we hadn't counted on at all. And some of the women who are still in my women's group, as a matter of fact, would wear sunglasses all the time because they were always crying. Okay? And would have to hold on to their chairs every time somebody started teaching because what are we going to hear this time? But it all worked out just fine.
So notice how they laughed, right? Oh, they laugh and laugh and laugh. Now, again, this Christian group, the reason that these women were crying is because this group basically says you must be 100% in control of your husband. Have the man in control, total control of everything, and the women have no control. They must be completely and utterly subservient. And then she says, well, look, I mean, when we tell the women that they're going to have absolutely no control over their own lives, well, of course they would get upset and they would start crying. But then it turned out fine because, the men just told us to shut up and go make a sandwich. And then they were fine. They were fine. See, they're fine. Men in control, women not. Totally fine. No. Again, this is ridiculous. Now, there's more details about that. And this comes from former members of People of Praise. They say they have described the group as calling for the complete obedience of women to their husbands. The Guardian previously reported that one of the group's former members described in a sworn affidavit filed in the 90s that Kevin Ronigan, which, by the way, the person that you heard talking there was actually Dorothy Ronigan. So that is the wife, obviously. Wait, hold on. How come that woman was talking? Why wasn't the man talking at that point, if that's what they believe in? But okay, let's get back to that. Now, the group co-founder, Dorothy's husband, had exerted almost total control over the former member when she was living in the couple's household, including making all the decisions about her finances as well as dating relationships. Now, how that relates to Amy Coney Barrett, she had also lived with the Ranigans when she attended law school at Notre Dame. Although she had never publicly disclosed or discussed her membership in the People of Praise, where her father served as in a leadership role, and she had served as, get this, I'm not making this title up, handmaid. She served as a handmaid. Dystopian. Total dystopian shit. Wow. And now, she had served as a handmaid, and when she was trying to get on the Supreme Court, she said that her faith would have no bearing on her duties as a judge. Really? Again, this is a woman that voted down reproductive rights for women, and I'm going to get to how that ties into this in a bit, and who had written about how we need an increase in the domestic supply of infants. Just too low. But no, it's not even about that. Again, it's about men controlling women's lives and bodies. In fact, let's go to the discussion on Roe v. Wade. Now, the Guardian article noted, while Barrett's personal faith-based opposition to abortion rights in Roe were known before her 2020 confirmation and before she joined a majority of justices in overturning that landmark ruling, less is known about the culture in which Barrett was raised and its views on women in childbirth, suffering, and the role in society. Barrett has also never addressed how the reversal of Roe might affect a woman's life. But during her oral argument in Dobbs v. Jackson, the Supreme Court case that ultimately overturned Roe, Barrett referred specifically in questions of the availability of the so-called safe haven law across the U.S., which allows mothers to abandon newborns in designated locations without the risk of punishment. She suggested that the availability of these legal protections for new mothers meant that while women might be forced to give birth, or will be forced to give birth if Roe were overturned, they would not necessarily be forced to become parents or be burdened by parenthood. The line of reasoning was decried as cruel and dangerous by pro-choice activists and writers who said that seeing safe haven laws is a viable replacement for reproductive choice ignored real health risks associated with pregnancy and childbirth and ignored women's right to bodily autonomy. Barrett's question also appears to echo people of praise culture in which she was raised and chosen to remain part of, which emphasizes, and this is how it ties in, the importance of childbirth, pregnancy, and abandonment of autonomy and privacy it supposedly entails as a core part of what it means to be a woman. So now that right there, that's her personal beliefs. And yes, that absolutely does tie in to the decision that she made. So even if you're not forced to become a parent with the so-called, safe haven laws, you still, according to her belief, getting pregnant, having your body change, and giving birth, that's a core part of being a woman to her. And by the way, losing your bodily autonomy removing the Roe decision and the states then enacting their trigger laws and their abortion bans ultimately did. Now, let me give you the quote here from Dorothy Ronigan on this as well. And this is the teachings that Amy Coney Barrett believes in. Quote, pregnancy teaches a woman that others have a claim on her very person for the service of life. Rather than annihilating her, pregnancy makes her a new person, radiant and strong, a mother. Hold on. Oh, it doesn't annihilate her, but it makes her a new person. Isn't that kind of the same thing? Again, amazing, right? So that's what they believe in. That's who these people are. And again, this is what Amy Coney Barrett, you can't say that she doesn't make her Supreme Court decisions not based off this, right? Of course she makes these decisions based on this or whatever her husband says. Because again, it's not just about like, I'm part of this group and all that. No, it's a religious sect. It is a cult. And you follow what the cult leader says. And you follow, and in this case, the cult leader says, follow what your husband says. Only submit to your husband, 100%. And so that's why a lot of people, when they were opposing Amy Coney Barrett, said, look, the reason is that we don't know if it's actually her decisions or the law, right, which is what they're supposed to interpret, or if it's just the words of her husband coming through her mouth. And it looks like, based on her decisions, I don't know, maybe she agrees with it. Maybe she feels like she has to agree with it. But it certainly, I don't think it's her words. It sounds a lot like, Dorothy or more likely Kevin's words than anyone else's. All right. Now that said, that's the place of the woman. They also, by the way, have a, place about the men. So what about the men? So it turns out that men in People of Praise were also quietly taught by their heads and leaders not to take part in any part of the child rearing. For example, they were instructed not to change or rinse out diapers. So leave all that stuff. That's women's job. That's her job. I'm not supposed to do any of that. I'm not supposed to do any of that woman housework stuff. Now, you can see why men would really want to be attracted to this. Especially guys who are lazy. And by the way, They also instructed men to distrust women's emotions. They're to be distrusted, and that pastoral problems were often addressed by asking a woman where she was in her menstrual cycle. Ah, you must be on that time again. That's why you're acting like that. Of course. Oh, of course, of course, of course. Total, absolute misogyny. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting, but it's what these people believe. We're not supposed to be a theocracy, but it looks like the Supreme Court is headed by one, controlled by a theocracy. Disgusting. That's what it is. Now, what's funny is the reaction. Okay, let me get to that. In a statement released after the publication of the Guardian article, Dorothy Rennigan replied that my remarks were meant as a joke. Now, I mean, that's why people were laughing, right? At the pain of women who were crying about losing their autonomy. And that the people in the room had understood. I would never be part of a group that oppresses women, and I never have been part of one. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Yeah, really.
Bullshit.
Yeah, okay.
Really?
Yeah. She also says, I have been proud to be one of the women leaders in the People of Praise for more than 50 years. I've been in the company of many strong women, lawyers, doctors, educated businesswomen, wives and mothers, and we are in no way oppressed. Yeah, it sounds like what oppressed people would say. I'm not oppressed. We're not oppressed. My husband tells me I'm not oppressed, and I believe him. Sure, yes. That's not what cult leaders or cultists say at all. We are responsible for our own decisions. We are free and happy. Furthermore, it is unconscionable to me that any of the more than 40 men and women who have lived with our family over the years would consider my husband an oppressor. As those who know him would agree, he is kind, gentle man who listens carefully and respects the opinion of women and men, as he always has. Yeah, I got news for you. You can seem like a nice person and still manipulate and control people. Again, if you're somebody who takes in younger people, okay, who takes in people who might not have the financial means to take care of themselves, and they're in your home, that gives you a certain level of control over them. Now, add in religion to that. That's definitely a recipe for being able to, dare I say, groom a person into a particular set of beliefs. And in this case, extreme fundamentalist Christian beliefs. And so, is that what I think happened with Amy Coney Barrett? Yeah, it is. I am saying that I think that that's what happened. Because again, I don't think that she is. I don't think that she's qualified, for one, to be on the Supreme Court and to make decisions for the millions of women. Because I don't think she's making those decisions based on what the law says and on precedent, but instead making decisions based on what her religion and what her cult says. That's why she's unqualified. Not to mention, too, that she had also lied to the Supreme Court, or I'm sorry, lied to get on the Supreme Court when she said that she was going to leave Roe intact. That's who she is. That's what they believe. And that's why it's dangerous for democracy.